Hello everyone, welcome to Hard Fork, where we talk about all things crypto, everything blockchain. I'm Shantanu. Today on the show, distributed ledger meets law. This is the statement that defines the person I'm going to talk to today. He's a lawyer by profession and he has completely immersed himself into creating a better and a more legally qualified crypto and blockchain India. So be it about how to tax crypto, how to build a blockchain business, how to design your new white paper, and of course how to rake up an RTI, asking daring questions to the government or authorities. He has done everything. I'm very happy to have the blockchain lawyer, Mr. Varun Sethi, on the show today. Varun, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
The first question which comes to my mind, while talking to you is, how does a lawyer get into blockchain full-time? Blockchain lawyer.
So I've been a startup consultant since 2012.
Okay.
And most of my clients, even at that time, were technology-based clients.
Okay.
My home was very close to IIT Delhi. So I had an inclination towards learning technology from those IIT people. So I had more technology friends than legal friends.
Okay.
Very interestingly, in 2015-16, for the very first time, an offer was made to me to pay my fees in Bitcoins.
I see.
Now, obviously at that time I denied it because I could not understand. I thought that the client was playing a prank on me and they wanted a discount. So I offered a discount instead of accepting the Bitcoin deal.
Okay.
So that was the first time that I heard the term Bitcoin. Then when I realized that the price of Bitcoin at that time in INR terms was something around 8,000-10,000 rupees. In about 3 months time it shot up to
10,000 rupees.
Yes. So it shot up to about 70,000-80,000 rupees.
Yes.
That is when I realized I had missed the train. So I went back to him, understood what it was and what he was doing, and we were primarily researching about these things.
So if I really look at blockchain as such, and I ask you about what really excites you about this technology and this industry.
I think the bigger term than blockchain is decentralization.
Okay.
I genuinely feel that the future, and I perhaps can make this prediction, that I feel that by 2025, most of the startups in India will be working remotely.
Okay.
That is, you will not have the entire startup team at one location. It will become location agnostic.
Okay.
So ideally, you will have distributed teams working in different locations. So you will not hire on the basis of jurisdiction ease. You will hire on the basis of skill set ease. So say for example, if I'm sitting in Delhi and I want a certain lawyer who has some, say, willingness to get into blockchain technology, a young intern, and he comes from Kerala, I will not mind hiring him online, he working remotely for me. So this is what I feel that the world will look like in 2025. So blockchain technology using decentralized technology as a base is actually a big step towards this achievement. So I feel that going forward, it is about decentralization, P2P, and people becoming say decision takers on their own behalf. So there'll be lots of P2P transactions going on.
Correct. I think this is a good idea for one of the startups out there, to talk about having an HR related on the blockchain, and we can use this kind of concept. And you have Varun to talk to about it.
Well, we've given a startup idea, it seems.
Actually. So, okay, now you being a lawyer, all right, and we being in India, and this show is right now focused on India and Indian thing. I think it's apt to understand certain things about the legal aspects in India per se. And the burning question that people have is because whenever I go out and talk to some of the people and viewers, and these people are, they think that crypto is illegal, all right? So as a lawyer, because you have deep dived into this for a very long time, what is the current status of cryptocurrency or in India as such?
So I would say this has been said multiple times, but there have been other people saying other things as well.
Yes.
So just to put the record straight, there has been no clear decision or information or guideline by the government of India or any other government body stating that cryptocurrencies are illegal. The only information that has been, there are lots of notifications that are out there on the RBI website which have been issued right since 2013, wherein they state that there is risk involved to what they call as virtual currencies. They don't call the term cryptocurrencies. Of late, they have started calling it crypto assets.
Yes.
So they don't like calling other than the Indian national rupee anything else as currency, which is correct to that matter. However, there has not been even a single notification stating that crypto assets or virtual currencies, so as to speak, being illegal. There have been lots of, say, be aware kind of notifications by RBI stating that it has above that normal risk. So just be aware of what you're getting into. You might be screwed. You might have some challenges understanding this technology. There are international companies where risk exposure is higher. So these are the kind of notifications that are there on the RBI website, even on the current date.
Yes.
There have been 5 or 6 notifications since 2013. I would say for a normal person who does not want to get into the intricacies of law, cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, more correctly stated, or virtual currencies per se is not illegal. But yes, the risk involved, because there is no clear regulatory guideline, the risk involved is far more higher.
Okay, so which means that if a person goes out in the market and he has the ability or he has the means to buy a crypto asset, if I may call that way, then he can buy. There is no problem whatsoever.
Correct. So the restriction that has been imposed by RBI in April 2018 is that they are not giving exposures of banking access to any crypto exchange. So say for example, within the parameters of income tax, wherein you want to buy crypto assets, you can still legally buy it. The challenge is that in case you breach sections like 269 ST, wherein cash holding of more than 200,000 INR is not allowed. So in those cases, what happens is that within those 2 lakh rupees INR limit, you can surely go and buy anything, including crypto assets. However, in case you're caught with say 50 crore INR rupees of cash, and then you say that I was going to buy crypto assets, well, that is no justification. So within the parameters that are set by undisputed law of income tax and the guidelines that are there by the Reserve Bank, we can surely go ahead and buy crypto assets.
Great. Okay. So Varun, you just now spoke about the RBI and its mandate for the banks not to provide any services to the crypto companies or crypto traders and all. You had done an RTI. You had so what one of course what drove you to do the RTI, and secondly is was it really a knee-jerk reaction by RBI?
I'll take the second part of the question first. So what drove me to file the RTI? Well, I think amongst all other laws that are there in India, RTI is something I feel that is very necessary to the democratic character of our country. So I feel that this RTI was filed not just for cryptos and blockchains. I have been filing RTIs of late for other aspects as well. And I feel that the government is slightly, especially the current government, is slightly more strict on giving more data or access or information through RTI. But that's fine. The position of CIC has not been filled up for quite some time.
Okay.
So that's a big question. So there have been questions asked of the current government regarding their exposure or their willingness to expose more information through the RTI. So the specific RTI that we filed in April 2018 was primarily pertaining to we wanting to know, when we were researching, we wanted to know what prompted Reserve Bank to actually come up with this reaction that they will ring fence all the RBI controlled entities to not give banking access to any of the crypto exchanges, and 3 months time period was given to shut down all banking relationships. So we had, amongst other things, we had asked 4 primary questions. One being whether they had done any internal research before, whether RBI had done any internal research before imposing this ban. The answer by RBI was that no, they had not done any research. There's no research report available with RBI. The general norm that is followed is that whether there has been any internal committee that has been constituted, or whether they have invited experts from any field to understand what this new technology is and whether it is and how to regulate it. So the response to the RTI was that they had not constituted any committee and they have not invited any.
Yes, I read that RTI. Yes.
So that was slightly surprising, I would say. Then there was another question that we had asked, which is, I would say, has a controversial connotation to it. Was that every Indian citizen every year gets a right to remit 250,000 USD through liberalized remittance scheme, LRS scheme, every year without the approval by the RBI. It's an automatic approval that is given and you can remit those funds. So we had asked whether remittance of crypto funds also falls within this restriction of $250,000. So they stated that no, FEMA laws currently do not apply to cryptos. So there are two interpretations, and it throws open a big debate, Pandora's box, you can say. Why? Because it means that any person in India can then limitlessly transfer any value to any person abroad. I don't think so. The interpretation of that answer should be this, because if there is some value being transferred from India abroad, it has to be at least regulated or be known to the Indian authorities. Otherwise, they can simply convert, or people can start taking services in acceptance of services in cryptos, and then they can remit it abroad. Of course, it not being a legal tender, you cannot ideally accept services compensation in cryptos. So that is one answer that we were rather surprised about. However, whenever new technology comes, we generally feel and see that there is invitation open.
Yes.
It happened in GST law as well. There were invitations given by the government that in case you're expert in this field, you can come to the government and we can debate, we can discuss, you can write some papers to us, we frame a policy, based on that policy then we implement it. So in crypto's case, very surprisingly, there were no such invitations to any experts. And it is not something that this technology has emerged from India. There were experts abroad also. There have been people who will be researching about this technology. We have been a technology heavy or a service heavy industry where we have competence of technology as well.
True.
So you find technical experts in Bangalore and Hyderabad. You can pick up experts from those fields, and then perhaps a democratic debate could have happened, and then this ban or this restriction that happened in a very knee-jerk reaction could have been in a more democratic manner.
Okay.
So I feel that even on the current date, RBI has been very strict in not letting know what is going on inside. So very interestingly, just adding one more point here.
Yeah, please.
Post filing an RTI with RBI, I also filed another one with Sethi. And Sethi, quite surprisingly, during the same tenure where we filed the RTI with RBI, we filed with Sethi a few months later. And Sethi claimed that yes, we have constituted an internal team. And I also propose that I can approach SEBI and I can share my domain knowledge expertise. And they said, no, we have internal experts in our field. And they also very surprisingly state that they have consulted other government departments regarding this thing. One of them could be RBI, because there's a reason to it, there's a technical reason to it. There is one very key player or a very key government position person who sits on the board of RBI as well as Sethi, who happens to be the chairman of who happens to be the secretary of RBI currently. So a person who says no here says yes, we've constituted committees and we've done researches and all that stuff in Sethi answer.
Oh, that's strange.
So that's slight anomaly that we find in the responses of the two RTIs.
And this, apart from the fact which I know that RBI also has a research wing of its own, and they are banking heavily or doing a lot of research on how blockchain as a technology can be used within its own parameters.
Correct. So this has happened of late. This RTI was filed in April 2018. Post that, we have seen that banks have been embracing blockchain technology, so as to speak. Ripple architecture has been used to understand whether it can make swift or international transfers in a more convenient manner, in a faster manner. Foreign banks, we see that they are embracing this technology faster than India. India surely has the technical competence to accept this technology and make processes, especially the international remittance processes, in a more faster and efficient manner. I do not see that there is no reason for not embracing this technology, at least the blockchain part of it. The crypto part, generally, government would be slightly skeptical unless and until there's a big use case that comes up for the government to embrace. But yes, this is something that the government should look at.
So I think so the government or RBI, they love blockchain as a technology, but they are averse to the idea of crypto. Does it really challenge the current the currency system that we have in India? Cryptos?
See, that's a big claim that an age-old currency system that is there in the country can be challenged by a new technology.
Yeah.
I would say again it goes down to the same question. We are talking about decentralization here. Decentralization would surely make centralized authorities slightly nervous. And the point is that why were centralized authorities needed? Centralized authorities were needed just to ensure, say, things like investor protection.
Correct.
People who cannot take their own decisions, hence central authorities needed to protect those people. Now, when we see a decentralized authority, ideally everyone is required to participate. It works just like a democratic system,
Yes.
a voting system,
Yes.
wherein everyone has a right to vote. Wherein if some people say that, okay, we don't want to vote, this person can vote on our behalf, that is when the emergence of centralization happens. So I would say that it's still very early days. Blockchain technology is at least something that the government is willing to embrace. We are expecting, I got some calls from the government department, IAS officers willing to embrace maybe putting land records on blockchain just on a test basis. So regulatory sandboxes can be built in those things. And of course, cryptos will surely follow. You cannot keep crypto out of blockchain.
What I want to know is, we've just seen another change of date of Tariq, which is what people call it. What do you think is the most favorable judgment that is going to come out of the Honorable Supreme Court?
You put me in a fix there. See, the best thing that can happen in that judgment is that the focus of the case is on what is the right of RBI to put a ring fencing restriction on banking and banking entities to give access to crypto exchanges. So the most favorable thing that can come out is that RBI might lift this ban. However, I would not say that that will be the end of the story. Why? Because post lifting of the ban, it again exposes all the retail investors or young people to the huge risk of crypto assets. You do not even know. There might be some token that gets listed on some exchange, and you do not even know whether this exchange will exist tomorrow or not. There is no licenses that are given. So I would say that even if the most favorable judgment comes from the Honorable Supreme Court, the very next step that you go to understand is that what is the action the government can take, or does the government have right to put in place things like what Malta did, something very similar to, they can come up with licenses.
Correct.
They can say that just like for doing an IPO, you need 3 years of distributable profit history in a company, and no company can do an IPO within the first 3 years of their existence. Where in ICO, you can access public funds with very limited public responsibility and then do it in 15 days of your existence. So those things would surely be looked at by the government, and even if this ring fencing restriction is lifted by the Honorable Supreme Court, there has to be some regulatory framework in place to be put in place by the central government. Very interestingly, just adding one point here, one of the questions that I put in my RTI to RBI was that whether Reserve Bank of India controls or regulates the Sikkim Bank. Now Sikkim Bank, and the answer was that Banking Regulation Act does not apply to the Sikkim Bank. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting answer, and it also gives a person like me an opportunity to maybe approach Sikkim, make them embrace this technology, understand, and then perhaps can we come up with, make Sikkim a regulatory sandbox, come up with some use case, put maybe some value in the Sikkim Bank of a Sikkim resident who's young, who understands technology, and then peg this INR value in Sikkim Bank against a certain crypto, and then let people embrace this technology. See, there are some challenges, some restrictions that INR has. For instance, in case you have to remit more than $250,000 from India to abroad, up to $250,000 you can go to the bank, it gets done in a couple of hours. But above $250,000, it takes about 20-25 days to get approval. It has cost involved to it. So how about, that is the reason why people want to embrace cryptos. Why? Because you just press a button and you can transfer it. So cases like Sikkim Bank are a very interesting use case. We can embrace, we can develop that as a regulatory sandbox, and then maybe offer this solution to the government. The government can come up with a regulatory policy around it.
Very interesting. Do you think, if I can really probably change the track a little bit and ask you, because you say that Supreme Court may allow, or the RBI banking restriction will be removed, but the government will come up with something or the other, does it really favor the new startups in the crypto and blockchain? If yes, and how?
See, I would not say that the government or the Honorable Supreme Court will come up with this answer, but let's think of a utopian concept. Even if it comes up with this solution, no one wants an unregulated entity. That is not how systems in India have worked traditionally. You still want, and in case you want to embrace cryptos, you don't want to put your money in a crypto exchange which is not regulated, which does not have policies which are transparent, it does not have policies where you do not even know who owns it. You do not want to put your money in or exchange value with a person with whom you do not even have information, say, of KYC or the AML. So these things will surely be looked at by the central government. So even if the Honorable Supreme Court lifts the RBI ban, you've got to be very clear that the government will surely come up with some regulatory.
Yeah, because what I also know is there's $20 billion worth of investment which happened probably last year.
Correct.
And the Indian share was minimal, absolutely minimal, bespoke kind of stuff. Probably 10 million or 100 million, not sure the number, but it's very, very less. All right, and if there is no proactive approach by the government, probably we lose out more because
correct.
There is a lot of talent in India.
Exactly.
There's a lot of good work happening in India. All right, so we need that. Kind of a structure.
Yes, there have been talks about blockchain resulting in the second brain drain in India.
Yes.
So those challenges are there. I would say it is not. We should not think it this way, that we should expect the government to come up with a regulatory framework. Perhaps it's responsibility of people like us to write the regulatory framework and submit to the government that this is what the other countries are doing. My team has been writing something. Of course, they've been slightly slow, so perhaps a push is needed. So that regulatory framework can then be. So maybe the example that I mentioned about Sikkim, perhaps we can put a regulatory sandbox in place in Sikkim. We are getting some good interest from Hyderabad government as well. In case we are able to implement some good technologies there, some good legal frameworks there, and then we can of course extrapolate that to the central governments as well. So things are good, and there's lots of work for blockchain enthusiasts and blockchain lawyers as well.
No, I'm very optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person. I believe that in the times to come, and probably I'm looking at July very optimistically, that at least we will start. The RBI will say, okay, hence you can start your crypto conversions from the banks itself.
So even if that does not happen, that should not be an excuse.
That should not be
not jumping into the blockchain technology.
People are still doing that, but despite the fact that there has been a 1 year of lull as far as the crypto movement is concerned. But there is a lot of good work happening. I'm sure I've also interacted with a lot of people. A lot of work is happening. We have very little time, but I will ask you one important question. I had this in mind long time back when I first met you.
Okay.
You are very enthusiastic about whatever you do, all right? And you seem to be making a lot of strides into in the business world as far as blockchain is concerned. What has been the most gripping challenge in your stint as a blockchain lawyer?
The most gripping challenge is to hire a blockchain team. Because I could not find experienced people, so I generally prefer working with interns and then mentoring, guiding them, and then making them professionals in this field. So obviously, I do not find a 25 or 30-year-old person who wants to embrace this technology. So it's better to hire a 20-year-old, maybe work with him or her for the next 3-4 years. Let him embrace the blockchain technology, and then perhaps he or she can become maybe my replacement in another 5 years' time.
Yeah, that's a very good thought. I think some of these people out there could probably take a leaf out of this conversation and talk to.
And we are hiring, so of course we are looking forward to.
So they are hiring. So Varun Sethi is hiring, guys, and I'm sure he's a very exciting person to work with because he's very robust as far as his knowledge is concerned, and his exuberance shows it. He's been slightly under the weather this time, so probably that's why he's not been very exuberant on the screen, but he normally is very exuberant if you see him talking on a podium. All right, Varun, it's excellent talking to you. We have very limited time to showcase this entire thing. I'm sure we'll get more opportunities to interact with you.
Absolutely, and I should also get an opportunity to throw some questions to you. Generally, it's the other way around. We'll shortly.
Yeah. I mean, see, this is the talk show. This was supposed to be a conversation, but it generally it becomes the fact that it becomes an interview. I don't want that to happen. I'm sure we'll get more opportunities to talk.
You should always give an opportunity of a lawyer to ask more questions. That is what the job for a lawyer should be.
Absolutely. So we'll see you again sometime maybe.
Sure.
And thank you for being on the show with us. Thank you so much. We'll see you again, guys, for the next episode. It was wonderful having Varun. I'm sure you will take some information from this episode, and let's see you around again. Bye-bye.